This segment of the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast is supported in part by Douglas Outdoors, serious rods for serious anglers. Go to douglasoutdoors.com and check out their new lineup of Era rods that retail under $100. Norsk Lithium, the lithium battery that you need is just a click away. Go to norsklithium.com and check out some of the lightest lithium batteries in the market with the best warranty in the business. Mariner Sales, located in the heart of the DFW Metroplex, Mariner Sales has the largest inventory of kayak and kayak accessories in North Texas. You can also shop online at marinersales.com. What is going on, everyone? Welcome once again to the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast. As always, it's your boy Armando. Got a new camera set up here, so to remind myself to look at the camera and not look where I used to look. But anyways, we're gonna have Bailey Eichbrett and from the Serious Angler podcast, and Nick Audi, another successful tournament angler, and they just got first and second place on the Bassmaster Kayak Series at Lake Champlain. Both hit the century mark. The only two that did it. The lake showed out. The anglers showed out. I mean, it was impressive how much fish was caught on that tournament. So it's exciting for me to have them on the show. I've got into doing the podcast, listening to Paddle and Fin, Serious Angler podcast, and KBN. I've always wanted to do like interviews on tournaments, because I've always felt like that was a good way to kind of learn how to do kayak bass fishing, since I wasn't something that I grew up doing, something that I picked up in mid 40s, really. So kind of to catch up, I started doing the podcast and trying to get anglers on. As the podcast progressed, Kayak Bass Nation had kind of done the live show with the tournament anglers and all that. So I didn't want to do the same thing just because it felt repetitive. Kayak Bass Nation, they're the best at it as far as interviewing anglers and tournaments and stuff like that. So I got into doing more social media and stuff like that. But as KBN has the kind of restructured what they're doing according to what they posted on their social media on Facebook, kind of opened the door to, at least for this episode, to go back to interviewing anglers and tournament anglers and recapping tournaments, which I love doing, because I feel like I learned a lot from talking to these pros about how they got it done. And both Bailey and Nick are seasoned anglers, which have found, success that most of us in kayak fishing only dream about finding, or earning. So it's exciting to have them on the podcast. So without further ado, let's bring them in. Let's talk about this tournament. First of all, Nick, how you doing, man?
Good. How about you?
Very impressive backdrop that you have there. At some point, without having to add CGI or AI, I'll maybe some point out a little trophy on the back and a big check. So congratulations, man, on all your success. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Let's bring Bailey Eichbrett. Bailey, host of the Serious Angler podcast, had a great podcast. All of your episodes are pretty good. I've really enjoyed the segment now with forgot his name, but the biologist, which I had on the podcast one day. Learned so much from talking to him on one episode. I think more than I've ever learned on any podcast that I've listened or actually hosted. So Barden, right? Steve Barden?
Steve Barden,
it
my
just
favorite,
came up.
Favorite nerd.
No, it's great knowledge. If you haven't listened to the Serious Angler podcast, go check it out. We'll let him plug the podcast in a little bit. But yeah, that segment from Fish Biology, I think, is really good. So congratulations, Bailey, on another great tournament, another great win. I've always said, if you ever decided to go full-time kayak tournament, and I know you're very involved in kayak fishing and social media, doing the podcast and doing media and working with different companies. But I know if you ever had a chance to put more time on the water, you'd probably be there for AOYs in some of the bigger national trails. Judging by all the success you had and the limited amount of time that you actually done national trails.
I appreciate that, man. That's kind of you to say. I don't know. I still got a little bit of what do you call it, imposter's theory going on in my head, where I kind of feels like I shouldn't be here, but I don't know. We'll find out next year when I fish the full schedule. So we'll see.
Oh, you are awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
great. Looking forward
See.
to it and rooting for your success.
Appreciate that.
And as well as everybody, we want everybody to do great. Nick, let's start a little bit with you, man. I see all your trophies in the back. I've never had a chance to meet you. I mean, as far as tournaments, how does this, even though it's not a win, but a second place, and you got the 100 triple digits mark on the tournament, how does this tournament feel compared to all you achieved in your previous tournaments?
This is definitely right up there for me in the top accomplishments. Number one, it's Bassmaster. It's the major national kayak trail right now, really the only show in town. And this is my best finish I've had in a Bassmaster tournament. I cashed a check at Murray a couple years ago. I haven't fished all that many, and I've had some disappointing Bassmaster events where, on the Susquehanna River, I'm from this area, and I've had, really good day ones, been in the top of the pack after day one and sort of fell off on day two. So this really felt great to finally close the deal on a top finish in a Bassmaster tournament, on a top 3 finish. It also qualified me for their championship next year, so that's something I'm very excited about. But yeah, for sure, this is definitely one of the top accomplishments for me I've had so far.
Is this the first time you qualified for the national championship?
No, I've been to the last 3. So I fished I didn't fish the entire schedule, but I fished enough to qualify last year. And then the year before, when they were on Chickamauga, I believe, I fished that one. I qualified through the New York State Bass Nation tournament trail. So I qualified for that one. Last year, I was at Fork this year. Had a so-so finish. I think I was top 30, but it was, it was not exactly what I was looking for. And sort of the same deal where I knew weather was going to play a big factor on one of the days of the tournaments, similar to how it did on Champlain. So it sort of changes your mindset going into the tournament.
How about you? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Bailey.
I was going to say, now that Nick reminded me of the championship this year on Fork, I fished 2 Bassmaster events this year, and both were one-dayers because one of the days got canceled.
Same here. Yep.
What was the other one? I forgot.
Fork.
Oh, Fork.
And then Champlain.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bailey, how about for you? I know stranger to holding up a #1 trophy on national trails, but how does this rank compared to other accomplishments if you had on kayak bass fishing tournaments, especially on the national level?
Well, I mean, I got one other win on the national side, and that is the Hobie on Eufaula, and that was my second ever national tournament. So I don't know, that one was special in its own right. But this one being in the home state, although my buddies like to remind me since the past week that I was technically fishing in Vermont, so maybe it doesn't count if I won it in New York. So they like to say that, but no, just being out of Plattsburgh anyway, it was special to do it, I guess, in the Lake Champlain being a heavy New York lake. So it was, I think they're both special. It's a 1A 1B for me in my mind, especially seeing who was behind me in that top 10. There was some freaking hammers that I've looked up to for a long time that I knew when standings were going to go off that I better keep swinging because I was not safe whatsoever. And Nick made it as close as you possibly could make it without having a tiebreaker. So my inkling of not being safe was definitely true.
Yeah, let's go. I'm a numbers guy. I love looking at sports from analysis standpoint. Forgot the word there for a second, but well, actually I can't for whatever reason. It's not letting me share the screen, but I wanted to share the standings. So you got a 100 and a quarter inch, and Nick, you got 100 inches. So by this limits of margins, like you mentioned, without having to go into a tiebreaker, Ryan 99 inches. The top, let's see, the top, man, I'm scrolling down here, and the top 37 got 90 inches. The top, well, at least 100 anglers, more than 100, like 103 anglers got a limit. Peter Hooser here from Texas, he didn't even get a limit, and he got 72 and a half inches, which is, I mean, 72 and a half inches is, a respectable fish limit, and he only got 4. Like, this lake really showed out. The anglers, the talent really showed out. What is your overall thought on the level of competition and the actual lake being, I mean, 37 people caught 90 inches? That's unheard of. That's amazing.
I mean, it's Champlain, man. There's a reason why so many people love going up there to fish and why it gets the reputation it does. And Nick, I mean, I'm sure I can speak for both of us that I think everybody knew going into it you're going to need a mega bag. And I think looking back on it, 100 inches was hard to catch, but I think I'm honestly more surprised it didn't take more than what we had to win it. I was really thinking a 101, a 102 was going to take it, especially in a one-day shootout. Now, 2 days, I think we definitely could see a 200 coming out of there, but it's just a special lake.
Yeah, and it's a lake of every quarter inch matters. I mean, it really is. I thought going into it was going to take like 198 and a half, 199. Turns out that if it did go 2 days and we had the weather, that probably would not have been true. It probably would have broken 200. I know that there's like, I caught a lot of, 18 and a half to 19-inch fish that I was throwing back that didn't help my limit. And I mean, there were a lot more where that came from. Like it was not going to slow down. I don't think. I mean, I went out in practice and caught 100.5 inches, and same thing on tournament day, 100 inches. I think there were 100-inch bags out there for days.
Oh yeah. Yep. There's so many fish in that place, and that's the cool thing about it is, I think Nick and I were fishing very similar, but you could really go, and I know of guys that were on mega bags, shallow in practice that simply dumped them in tournament day. They just didn't keep them pinned, and you could really go there and do whatever you want, especially when you talk about a one-day shootout. Then it kind of opens the door up. That's where largemouth could play potentially, but I don't know if there's 100 inches worth, but you could do whatever you wanted on that lake.
Yeah, going into Sunday of practice, I was there Saturday, Sunday, then I came back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But going into Sunday, I had thought that I was actually convinced the bite was going to be shallow. I thought it was going to be a shallow water bite fishing for smallmouth in 5 to 15 foot of water, until I found a deeper bite. And then I prefer fishing that style. So once I knew that deeper bite was going on, there was no question what I was going to be doing. But there definitely were big limits shallow as well.
100%. Yeah.
And I noticed looking at the picture, and it sucks that I can't share it for whatever reason. I mean, some of the biggest fish were smallmouth bass. That's the crazy part about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, 100 inches largemouth bass. It's still impressive, but when you add to it like smallmouth bass, like that is, I mean, I can't even dream about hooking up like a 20, 21-inch bass that is a smallmouth bass. It must be one of the most thrilling fishing and kayak fishing experience you can have.
Bailey,
go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Could you think of any other national tournament? I was trying to think of this, that 100 inches of all smallmouth were broke, like all smallmouth broke 100 inches.
No, I have our guy that runs NYKBF New York's trail kayak wise. He confirmed it through he keeps a really good tally of records, but that 125 inches is now the new record of all smallmouth. Anyway, at least in New York, and
I mean, I can't think of, because the Susky tournaments, I mean, that's one you would think that would be able to potentially push that, but I don't ever remember 100
I don't
inches.
think 100. No, I think I see 99s, but I don't know if I've ever seen hundreds. But I mean, technically speaking, I think the top 5 all broke the New York State record for all smallmouth bag anyway. But it's just our fish up here, Armando, like the smallmouth especially gets so much. Like you take a 4-pound smallmouth and you take a 4-pound largemouth, that largemouth is probably going to be 1.5 inches smaller than that smallmouth. They just naturally, especially for what I noticed, I'll take 2 very popular lakes right now in New York and compare them. It's you could take a 19-inch smallmouth on Champlain and a 19-inch smallmouth on, say, Cayuga. The one on Cayuga is going to be 1.5 pounds heavier, but the one on Champlain is going to be it's going to tend to be longer. They're just almost built like river fish, if that makes any sense. But that's where I think a lot of us knew going into it, this event, where smallmouth is going to be the deal just from the length standpoint, where it's a game of that and a game of what can I do that a lesser amount of people are going to do, so that you can have more fish to yourself. And I think that's why, you saw heavily in the top 10 why guys like Nick and Jake, Ryan, Nye, Ewing, myself, were all out, for roamers and schooling fish, where it's, to some people, it's a daunting task going out in that big of water.
Yeah.
What going back to, Nick, you talked about your pre-fishing Bailey. How did you get a chance to pre-fish, and how was the pre-fishing for you, and how did it translate to the tournament?
Yeah, I got up and started practice. For me, it was Wednesday, and actually within the first 4 hours was where I found the spot I ended up fishing the tournament. I don't know why. Whenever I have the national tournaments where I have done well or cashed a check, for whatever reason, it's always the first day that I find where I ended up starting a tournament. But started practice on Wednesday and ended up finding those fish, and kind of just got into this mode of I mixed in a little bit of largemouth fishing just to keep it honest and look. And I just realized very fast that that schooling bite is going to be what is going to take to win. And you're going to need a very big bag to do it, because when you got around those smallmouth, it seemed like for whatever reason, they were very hungry and they were pissed off. And so it was, and every bite it seemed like you were going to get was 18 plus. So you were going to need a good bag to even come away with a top 10. But the area that I was in, I knew Sunday, one way or another, even if we had Sunday, I was going to have to burn my area down, because I'm probably not gonna be able to reach it regardless on Sunday. So I burned it down to start with, on Saturday, and I got lucky that it turned into a one-day shootout. Whereas my mindset going,
you didn't get lucky. You're just good.
Well, I mean, in regards to it got turned into a one-day event, where I don't think I could have. I mean, I had another area, a different part of the lake, where I think I could have gotten 95 plus, but I don't know if I could have had 100. And so, like, I think very well Nick could have gone up and put up another 100 and easily beaten me on day 2. Where if that turning into a one-day shootout, I think was lucky. That was the lucky part for me, was it turned into a one-day shootout, where who knows what was going to happen on Sunday. So
that's a good point, because I wanted to ask you that when was the announcement of in the one-day shoot that it was going to be now a one-day shoot? And I asked that because I've been on tournaments, and for those that haven't fished a national trail, haven't fished a tournament, especially in the Bassmaster Kayak Series, like if you caught in this case, a 20-inch smallmouth bass, you go to the same spot. That was a day 1. Day 2, you go to the same spot and you catch that same bass. It does not count. Doesn't mean you cheated or anything like that. It's just, it can't be used. You have to get, a new 5 set of fish, no duplicates. So it does change the concept. I remember Michael Cates in Possum Kingdom last year. Day 1, he was done fishing by 10 a.m. because he had like 102 or 3 inches. He figured there's no point in me fishing it, because A, I'm going to sore lip, and B, whatever I catch now, if it falls in the top 5, then I can't use it for tomorrow. So did that strategy, you feel this, was there any like complaints for people saying, well, I mean, I could have gotten more, but I didn't want to keep fishing the spot because I thought it was going to be a day 2, anything like that?
No, I don't think so. There were 2 factors playing into that. Number 1 is they told us early on in the day that it was going to be canceled. So you knew.
Okay. So
as you were submitting fish, what was it, Billy? Like 9:30, 10 o'clock. They told us that it was going to be canceled. So I knew it was going to be canceled. And number 2 is that there's just so many fish in Champlain that and being that it was going to take the bag that it was going to take, and you had to upgrade the way that you were going to have to upgrade, I knew I was going to have to catch as many fish as I could catch on day 1 anyway, and probably still have enough fish for day 2. But the third, actually, there was a third factor, as Bailey mentioned, is that I don't know that I would have been able to get back out to those fish I was on anyway. I mean, I was out in the middle of basically the ocean fishing, and but the camera boat rolled up on me at one point, and they saw me moving with my motor. And they actually asked me, they're like, "Are you fishing or are you moving?" I'm like, "No, I'm fishing. Like I'm out here fishing. I'm not moving around." Yeah, I'm chasing them around. So it just looks like dead water you're fishing in, but it was full of fish, and there were so many of them that, you were going to just have to catch them and just know that you were going to have to try to put up the same thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't think that definitely didn't factor in for me, the weather at all, because I knew I was going to catch them on Saturday anyway.
Yeah, it was one of those events where regardless if we were going to have a day 2 or not, you had to catch all you could catch. Like there was no, like he said it perfect. The health there, Champlain is such a healthy fishery that you don't need to hold off, and you can't hold off on fish, especially in an event that was a slugfest like this one. You had to go and catch everything you could because it's going to reload to some capacity the next day.
Even in practice, laying off of them, I mean, yes, obviously you don't want to catch every fish in your spot, but you want to be sure you know what you're on if you're going to spend time there. Like you want to know that if I catch 10 fish, 2 of them are going to be 20s or whatever the math works out to. You need to know that your area holds the quality of fish that you're looking for, because you can't go in practice and catch an 18 and then an 18 and a quarter and think, okay, this is going to be my spot. The big ones will come. 18 and 18 and a quarters aren't going to do anything for you on this lake. As you saw, like 90 inches only gets you 37th place.
Yeah.
So you have to be fishing for those 19 plus inch fish pretty much all day.
Well, for you, Nick, what was like you would say the biggest factor in catching 100 inches? Like, was it the bait? Was it use of electronics? Was it boat positioning? Was it scouting? What do you think helped you the most in getting to that second place?
Electronics are the number one factor. I mean, I'm using forward-facing sonar fishing for fish in 50 feet of water, but beyond that, like, I mean, I think a lot of people were using forward-facing sonar in this tournament. I think beyond that, it's knowing where the fish want to set up at a given time of year. I knew they weren't going to be like out in the middle over 200 feet of water because the spawn had happened, a couple weeks earlier. They were going to be relating somewhere to the shore, but not on the shore. They're going to be off the shore. And the bait is the other thing. The fish I was catching were eating perch, and they were spitting perch up actually as I was fighting them into the boat. So you had to be around those perch schools, and recognizing those perch schools usually meant that the bass were going to be somewhere near there. You could drive around alewives and you could catch one here and there on the alewives in the lake, but they were not as big and they were not as plentiful as those bass that were eating perch.
Yeah.
What about you, Bailey?
I'll second it, and what I'll add on to it is the area that I was at. I'll agree with Nick. Like, I had some other areas around, not where I fished, but around the lake that if it was just alewives, you could catch 17s and 18s, maybe a 19 here and there as much as you wanted. But like he said perfectly, like you're not going to do much of anything with a limit of 18s on Champlain. So for me, what I actually ended up finding in the area, because for me, it's kind of an array of electronics, that worked, where I use side imaging and Bassmaster heavy in practice and Nick hit it perfect, where there's a certain time when summer hits that these fish go out to a certain part of a basin in a lake, and it's typically where the bait is going to be. So side imaging for me was, and I found it on a bunch of our lakes here in New York. They kind of do a similar thing, which really helped me in this one, but I'm essentially graphing, finding bait balls and finding perch on bottom. And that was the biggest thing, where I think like the smallest fish that I caught out of my winning area was 18 and a half. That was a small one. And I caught a 21 and a half in practice, which led me to believe I knew that there was wicked size in this place. But what they did, a lot of my fish, Nick, you described it too, I remember at awards, but they would essentially, I had a bunch of alewife schools up top, but they were like 6-7 inch alewives, so big ones that they were spitting up. And on bottom was perch schools. So they come up and go down and kind of have 2 different lines of buffet of food that they can go down and eat. And that's why I think there were so many bigger ones in that area. So I used side imaging to find that. And then, sniper pole, Mega Live 2 for me was how to, at least in practice, a lot of what I was doing once I could find that on side imaging was put the pole down and keep the motor running at like 2 miles an hour and just pan left and right and just get an idea of how many fish were in that area. And you can get an idea too of size when you see them online without having to catch them. It's good to catch them, or at least throw a bait at them just to see how aggressive they are. But yeah, I mean, just to get an idea of just how many fish are there, that was pretty key for me anyway. When it came to bait, I think I was in an area where I only ended up having one person come out to me about midday during tournament day, but even in practice and tournament day, I didn't have a single lick of pressure around me whatsoever. Not a single bass boat came out and fished that. I had about 20 bass boats come into the bay I was fishing, but they all went largemouth fishing. So it was, I think those fish just didn't get fished for. And it's just, I think that part helped too, as long as you get it from them and kind of time it, because they're moving quick. It was a huge timing thing of like whether they were riding high or you're getting coming up from the perch school and trying to figure out if they're going left, right, and get that bait perfectly in front of their face. That was it. And then trying to land them because they would jump 32 times once they got hooked.
Yeah.
Sounds like tarpon fishing the way you described
Pretty much.
it.
Yeah.
That's why I call them brownfin tunas, man. It's for that reason.
For tuna, I was going to say it's a lot of times when you're vertical jigging them, you set the hook and it's just dumping line over the side of the kayak, and then they'll start coming up to the surface. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. I got real lucky twice in the event where I had 220s that jumped right at the kayak. Thank God I had the net ready to go because they spit it as soon as they jumped right next to the kayak, and I caught them with the net. Otherwise, I would have been looking back on that. It kind of gives me chills looking at through the footage of that because I was that close to screwing up. But it was some days you have that where you screw up. Some days you have it where it happens.
Now that you guys mentioned that about, how you were to manage between, fishing on the surface, fishing them deep, positioning your boat, kind of, I guess, running and gunning. I don't know if that's the right term, but how do you guys acquire that skill? But most of us in kayak bass fishing, it's more of a trash fish, beating the bank kind of thing. But you guys, with respect to the competition, I guess in New York, it's a little bit different than here in Texas and south of the country. But it really takes, I think, a lot more skill to be able to put up those numbers because of what you mentioned. You guys are not beating the bank, just throwing a Senko. There is like a legitimate tactic or skill needed to actually find those fish and land those fish and position your boat. What do you think? Let's start with you, Nick. How hard is it to acquire those skills to be able to do that? Is it a lot of practice? Do you think is the key to be able to actually fish in that style of dynamic?
I think that there's two things. The first is experience on the water doing it. I mean, having the water to be able to do it. I've been fishing with forward facing sonar on these deep fish about as long as anyone. I mean, I've been fishing with live scope since like midway through 2020 or 2021. I think the beginning of the season in 2021 is when I got it. So this is my now fourth or fifth season going into using it. And it's committing to it. It's not, so a lot of guys will go out there, pan a little area with live scope. They'll walk around, they'll motor around, try to fish a deep area, not see any fish, see some trash fish and get frustrated. It's committing to actually going out there and finding the fish and knowing that this is the way I have to fish to win. So this is the only way I'm going to fish. It's easy to want to say, oh, I'll go catch those shallow fish. I could have done that in the tournament when I was practicing. I had a shallow bite going. I could have said, oh, I'll just flip a drop shot or throw a spook or throw a chatterbait up in 5 feet of water and catch those and catch good fish too. But I knew the winning fish were going to be offshore. So it's committing to it. It's actually, taking the time to say to yourself, this is the way I'm going to fish and I'm going to find them out here because they are out here. It's the same thing in Texas. I mean, you'll see guys, you see mega bags come out in Texas down there doing it. I fished on Fork a lot like that, and I caught some really good bass. It didn't work out for me in the tournament, but I know that is a way that you could have won that tournament out there doing that. So it applies nationwide. It's just committing to doing it.
What about you, Bailey?
Yeah, I mean, I think to do anything and do anything well, especially in a 2-day event, there's a lot of skill and experience that is involved in it. I think in this one, talking specifically about those fish that are offshore, I think it's especially Champlain, when you talk about the numbers of fish that are on that lake, it's pretty easy to run into them out there, especially if Nick hit on putting the time. But it's pretty easy to stumble into them. And if you have enough coordination, you can make a cast and especially be able to stumble into a fish or two. But to be able to put up consistent big fish and have the I guess the experience to look at something and see, okay, that's a smaller fish, that's a smaller group, that's a drum, that's, being able to see species, things like that. That takes a lot of time and a lot of trial and error. And I think then your next level on top of that is an efficiency standpoint of, you know, doing things faster and better than those that are doing it around you. That is, I think, what the next level it takes. That takes a lot of freaking time to do it. And that's skill that's not just for fishing offshore or with forward facing sonar. I mean, that same level of efficiency comes to fishing shallow, to beating the bank, to, fishing ledges, things like that. It applies to all walks of fishing. So like, a lot of the guys that were in that, that cached, had that level of efficiency where I think they're doing what majority of the field is doing or trying to do. They just have another level and a lot more time, behind the wheel doing it and committing to it, like Nick said. So there's a big level of skill to it in my mind. It's not just a get lucky and get out there. It'd be one thing if you're somebody that knew how to throw out a fish and you see, oh, Nick's out there. Okay, I know what Nick's doing. So then they go out there and try to join him on his stuff. That's one thing. But being able to find him, like Nick said, that's the hardest part, is because you go through a lot of dead space where you're like questioning yourself, like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And then magically you see at the end of the beam, you see 6 of them coming. You're like, oh my gosh, it's the Holy Grail. And you throw at them, they fly up, and you're like a little kid in Christmas.
Yeah, and a lot of times they just show up in the most random spots. They're in the areas that you think they're going to be, but at the same time, those areas might be a quarter mile, a mile wide in some instances, and there's only fish in a little, 50-yard pocket of it. Yeah. And it's about committing to it and like Bailey said, being as efficient as you can be to catch them when you have the opportunity to catch them. And in looking for them, it's not easy. Like in practice, there were miles I went without seeing a single fish, just driving around. But committing to it is the thing that I think separates.
Yeah, that area I was in was 100 yards long, maybe, that I was doing figure eights in, because for whatever reason the bait would not leave that area. And none of the fish were actually on the bait, which is the most interesting part. They were just cruising from bait pod to bait pod. They were just kind of making their rounds to the buffet. Maybe pick one off and then they keep going to the next one. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see like how much or how little of space they'd actually occupy. And so it takes a lot of time to go there and find those fish. And then you go through the torment of knowing they're not actually hanging on anything specific, man-made or any covers. So you're like, are they going to be there tomorrow? And you're like, you have to almost put yourself in the mindset of, I have to go find them again.
Yeah. I'll give you a little tip though, is, I mean, I drop waypoints on bait chasers that I always call them bait chasers, just roaming fish. And, I'll go back year after year and they sit in the same spots. Like they don't move very often when they're out there deep. Like they swim around in an area and you may re-find them 50 yards away, 100 yards away, but it's unbelievably consistent how once you find where those fish like to set up, they will go back there year after year in very similar areas.
I've kind of put it together a little bit because I try to take time on like Lanier and Hartwell to try to learn some of those herring fish. Mm-hmm. They kind of act pretty similar to herring fish, dude, and like how they almost have like there's imaginary stopping points.
Yeah.
And some, like you said, perfect though. Sometimes like you'll show up, they won't be there, but you look 100 yards to your right, and that's where they're going to be instead. But they'll be in that general area, which is super interesting. And Nick, I'm curious, dude, like I feel like some places they're drawn to that motor noise.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, I in the tournament, a legitimate strategy that I was using, like I actually employed this during the tournament, probably the second half of the day, is if I saw fish coming, I would drive towards them and they would start coming up at the boat. I think they think it's an alewife school. And then when they see that bait dropping out of it, they're curious. So they come up and look at your boat, the shadow your boat throws, the motor, the commotion. And then when they see that bait coming down, I was catching them directly under the boat, just dropping it on their head, like straight up, straight down, and just catching them. And if you catch one, and you're taking your board pick and everything, and those fish, you could see on live scope as you're taking your picture, they're all sitting under your boat, like probably 10 feet under your boat, waiting. I think, I don't know what they're waiting for, but if you throw the fish back quick enough and drop back in fast enough, you might be able to get another one to go.
Can you give us our friend back?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's another level of fishing, in the sense that it's such different from what most anglers go out to do, right? Like I mentioned, it's you're not looking at structure, looking at bait fish, you're chasing fish that are chasing bait. How hard is it to cast into school of fish that you're knowing they're moving? Like, how do you move it? How does your motor work? Does any of you use spot lock, or how is it that you manage to try to move with the fish? Do you instinctively or through experience know kind of where you think they're going, or is it just a question of following them through through electronics?
That's my question for Bailey, because I don't know how you do that with it is super impressive to me how you do it with the rear mount trolling motor, because I'm not able to. I've tried it before and I'm not able to do it because I like the turning radius on my front mounted trolling motor. I use an XI3, so I could turn really sharp. But I don't know. I'd love to hear, Bailey, how you track them down and chase them.
So I chase them with the 360. I don't chase them with the motor.
Okay.
I use the motor to when I'm graphing and searching, but once I'm around them, it's the 360 drive for me.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess really on top of that, it's a lot of 360 drive. It's a little bit of an orchestra between moving your 360, your steering, your sniper pull, and working your bait at the same time. Yeah. It's definitely an orchestra doing that. But I guess, like, to answer your question fully, Armando, like, it's a lot of more time. Like, we're talking about time, understanding what you're looking at, being able to tell if a fish is moving left or right, and understanding what you're actually looking at on your forward facing. Like, if it's facing you, you can tell that. If it's facing away, if it's moving left, it's moving right. And a lot of that is being able to chase it efficiently enough, having the hand-eye coordination, and the right gear to be able to make those longer casts if you need to, or if you know that you can't make those longer casts, you need to be able to chase them and get into enough where you can lead them, when they're going at 50, when they're 40, 50 feet away. It depends on how deep those fish are, where they're moving, how fast they're moving. For me, my fish were moving pretty fast, but I was using a 3/8 ounce jig head, so I could get it way out there, and I was using a 7.3 medium heavy spinning rod, so that way I could launch that sucker, and I was catching a lot of my fish away from the boat, so I could tell based on the way the bait fish were moving. If they're moving left to right, I'd see that the smallmouth would be moving that way, and I basically line up my forward facing so that I'm leading them that way. When my bait's hitting, let's get this in the screen. My bait's hitting, they're coming into it. That way they're seeing it above their head and automatically coming up to eat it. Because if you get it a little bit behind them, you ain't gonna. Very rare did I see them turn and put on the parking brakes and turn back. It's you have to lead them, otherwise they're not gonna give a crap about it. Yeah. It takes a lot of accuracy to do that.
Yeah.
What's the learning curve, you think? How long do you think it took you guys to be able to graduate to that skill level where you're confident you can go in a tournament and say, this is going to be my plan, and I'm confident I can execute it from a skill standpoint? Like you mentioned, being able to maybe move your motor, your pedal drive, your steering, your rod, your baits. How long do you guys, let's start with you, Nick, how long did it take you to acquire that level of confidence that you feel like you can catch 5 fish doing this?
I actually still remember my first live scope fish I ever caught was at Lake Murray. It was one of the first KBF tournaments they hosted out there. It was a striper, actually. I had just launched. I was just learning to play with live scope, like just figuring out what it did and how it worked. And I just saw this big blob on the screen, so I cast out a jerk bait. And back in those days, fish ate literally anything you threw at it. So it splashed air. I learned actually doing a lot of striper fishing at Lake Murray, just fishing for striper. They're bigger, they're easier to see, they're more aggressive. I would say it took me a solid year until I was really dialed in with it. We're like, and now like when I'm fishing, it's literally like the live scope pole is an extension of like my arm now. Like I can make my cast without having to take my head up from the screen. Like I know what direction I'm pointed in. I know what a 50-foot cast or what a 50-foot cast feels like, what a 100-foot cast feels like. Like it's more natural now. But I would say a solid year of doing it and getting used to it until I was completely comfortable. And you still learn every single time you use it. Like every single time I go out, I learn something new about fish behavior and how they respond to lures. And you'll see it change. Like it's way different than when it used to be. Like, and Bailey was talking about efficiency. I used to use a 3/4 ounce drop shot and just sling it at the fish's head. Like, and that thing sinks like a rock. Like you'd get down to them in no time and they would bite it every time. That doesn't happen anymore. Like those fish don't bite like that anymore. They've gotten wiser. They've gotten more used to getting lures thrown at them in that presentation. So now strolling a minnow or throwing a minnow on their head or, creeping a jig up behind them on live scope on the bottom. It doesn't just apply to open water fish. They're changing, but so you change with them. I mean, that's really the big thing. It takes a while, but once you learn what you're looking for and how to cast and how to present a lure in a way that doesn't spook the fish right off the bat, then that's when you're going to be able to keep up with them.
What about you, Bailey? How long did it take you to actually master that type of skill?
Yeah, I think just to get to the baseline of doing it somewhat well, I agree with Nick. I think it takes a year of doing it diligently. Not like a year of, you use it once or twice a month. I think if you're doing once or twice a month, I'm going to say it takes a couple of years, I think, to learn it well. But yeah, I think to get a good baseline, it takes a hard year of really putting in the time to learn it. There was a lot of times that when I would use it, I wouldn't even be casting. I'd just be watching the fish and just kind of learning from that standpoint. I think that definitely benefited too, especially on some of our places that are so biodense and seeing how they interact with each other and other species of fish. I think that definitely helps too. But it takes definitely a lot of time, behind the screen to get very good with it. And I think there's definitely some athleticism in all fishing, where hand-eye coordination is a big deal. But I mean, I think there's levels to it. Nick hit on it. Like he's constantly learning more. There's I think we're just on the brink of what we're learning with it. I think it's a constant evolution, and there's way higher levels than what, like myself are at and Nick's at, and Nick and Jake and those guys are way better than me at it. And then you got you guys you can look at like the Trey McKinneys and the Kyoyas of the world that are just at a level that I don't think I could fathom right now. Yeah. But it's really so much more to it, which is really, it's exciting to learn, if that makes any sense.
Taking the learning curve aspect of it, like every time if we get ice here, we get ice up here in the winter, and I'll fish until ice the lakes are iced over. But every time when that ice comes off the water and it's my first trip back out with live scope fishing deep, I have to relearn a lot of it. It's not like it's not like riding a bike. It's like I'm like, oh wow, that cast is way off. Like you have to dial it back in. So your goal by the end of the tournament is to be dialed in enough with your live scope that, especially in this type of tournament, that you know what your casts feel like that you have to make. Where to cast, and you're making the proper cast. But it goes away. Like it's not something that is just a learned skill that you never forget. Like constant repetition is important.
Yeah. That's a good point. I wanted to highlight what Jeff mentioned here. He says it's like the elite show now. Sure, you can go to most U.S. lakes and catch him on a jig, Senko, etc., and have a decent day. And that's a good point Jeff makes, because I think a lot of us, especially kayak bass fishing on tournaments, in practice, we go like, I've known as I try to progress to another level, I've noticed that when practice, it used to be like, I'm just going to have fun in practice, catch him and, try to duplicate it the next day. But when listening to you guys, and I've learned this over time, it's like you guys are not, practice is not just a fun day. There's going to be times where you want to start casting, but you'll be, like you mentioned, long periods where you're just staring at a screen, which is for most of it, it's like, well, kayak bass fishing is like to, unplug from technology, from work and from computers and all that. but you have to be dedicated when you are fishing at the level that you guys are fishing, which is, like Jeff mentioned, at an elite skill level, because you have to sacrifice a lot of what you would love doing in order to, find what you need to find, and hopefully, cross your fingers, able to duplicate that or get the results that you want on a tournament. And to that point as well, it takes time. Like most of us, like especially anglers that maybe get to fish 1 or 2 times a month, it's hard for you to say, okay, I'm going to try something at that skill level that's going to take me, for some people, it's going to be a year if you do it consistently. But if you're only able to fish 1 or 2 times a month, then it's going to take you a lot more. And to have the patience to fail over and over again, knowing that there is a far better way, I say that in asterisks, to catch fish, which is beating down the bank, which you can be more successful as far as catching more fish. I can't understate this. It's a level of commitment to what you guys are doing that have earned you the right to be at that level, has earned you, Bailey, and now Nick, the right to say, I have the biggest bag in kayak bass fishing of 100 inches in New York. Like, you have that record. That record belongs to you, Bailey, by a quarter of inch, and Nick, a quarter inch behind. It's something that you're proud of. But that just doesn't happen by going out and having, fun fishing, kind of speak. It is, you guys dedicated yourself to trying to find fish in probably what most of us would be almost impossible, would take years to even catch 5 fish, let alone be able to hold a state record on a kayak fishing tournament.
This is one thing I love to describe to people, because it definitely gets lost in translation for some people. That I don't blame them, but I think it doesn't come from a level of understanding, because maybe they just haven't. It might just be a competitive mindset, but essentially what I'm trying to get at is there is 2 ways of fishing. And I want to reinforce this. You could have won this tournament shallow. And I'm not going to name names because I don't want to out them. I don't know if I have permission to even share what they were doing, so I'm not going to. But they could have had over 100 inches on Champlain if it weren't for the fact that it was just hookup ratio. They could have easily won it shallow. So you could have won it. But I look at this as 2 different things. There is tournament fishing and there is fun fishing. Just because one says tournament fishing and not fun fishing doesn't mean it's not fun. They're both very, very enjoyable. The constant, grind of finding them may suck to some. I think guys like Nick and I, we love that grind of finding them, because it makes that moment of when you do that click, that moment you see them, you find them, so much sweeter, where we both enjoy the living heck out of it. I love getting up shallow with a jerkbait in a topwater and catching them. And I'll be honest, I would rather do that, but I do enjoy the living hell out of going and throwing a minnow at them on live too. So it's all fun to us, but at the end of the day, fun fishing is going to go choose what you enjoy doing most. Tournament fishing, you still very much enjoy it, but you're going to do everything possible that you can do to win. And it's just that is the difference between the 2. It's not that one is, more miserable than the other. They're both fun as heck. It's just one, you're just trying to find what way competitive advantage that I can do to put myself above the rest. And that's because I'm sure Nick and I, we probably would have loved to catch our stuff on topwater all day, but we know that that's probably not the greatest chance to put up a big bag and get them to the boat.
I think from my perspective on that, Billy, every single time I go to the Tennessee River, I get into the same habit. Like, I don't catch them very good when I go to the Tennessee River anywhere on the Tennessee River chain at all. It's not my style of fishing. I know there are fish out there deep to catch. So I grind all practice out deep, because I know that if I ever do find a school out there that I can consistently catch the way I want to catch them, that's my way to win the tournament. I'm not the best frog angler in the world. I'm not the best shallow water power fisherman in the world. I can do it. I enjoy it. I have fun doing that. But I know that my way that I'm going to fish the way that you want to fish to win the tournament. If you're tournament fishing, like Bailey said, you're trying to win the tournament. So for me, I may go out there and strike out fishing ledges deep or whatever on the Tennessee River, but that's what I know I have to do to try to win it my way. So that's the way I fish.
I think you both touch on a point that it's a lot of us miss, is that you embrace the grind. You thrive on the adversity. You want to have that adversity. And I've always preached this on the podcast. People that are listening to the podcast know I'm going to say something I say pretty much every episode, every other episode. I don't go to the same lakes that I know I can catch them. Just I may not even go for like a year just because it becomes boring. Like, but I also understand tournament fishing, and the mindset of tournament fishing is different. If you are a father of three that works 40 or 50 hours a week and you just want to have a lazy Sunday where you know you're going to catch him, and you feel comfortable at a place you want to catch him, there's nothing wrong with that. There's guys here in Texas that go to the same lake over and over again because that's the only chance. It's not about tournament fishing. It's about an excitement that kind of takes them about from the mundane thing and gets them over to the next weekend. But when it comes to tournament fishing, you guys both hit the nail on the head on it. It's in order to get to the level where you guys are, you want to have struggle, you want to be challenged, you want to feel like this is mentally and emotionally exhausting. And I think I enjoy that too. Like, yes, there are times where it's like, I just want to go to a lake or a pond where I know I'm going to catch them because I had a bad week. But then there are times where it's like, I want to go to a place that I know I'm going to struggle and fish it 2 or 3 times until I finally able to master it and have that. I think that makes it so much sweeter than anything else that involves kayak bass fishing for me. And again, I get it. For people, people put into bass fishing what they want to get out of it. And for some people, it's just like, I just want to get through next week and I just want to go and catch some fish. So I'm going to go where I feel comfortable. But again, it's when we talk about tournaments, what you guys are doing, it's pretty impressive in the sense that, like I said, it takes a special mindset to want to have that type of struggle, because the payoff, and it's the payoff. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick and Bailey, this is like you guys doing this, winning a check, breaking records. It's a cherry on top. Like, the real joy on this doesn't come from what you did over the weekend. It comes from the first time you said to yourself, I got it. And it might be the day that you're alone by yourself. There's no GoPros. There's no social media. You just went and decided, I'm going to go fish this technique or this area or this lake that I struggle. And then after, done it for half a dozen times, you finally break through and you find it. And it's in the day that you're not fishing a tournament. It's just you and the water and the fish. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, I would say it is. There's nothing like when you come up on that school after graphing, side scanning for miles, quadrant out whole sections of the lake, and then you finally find that school and you cast and you catch that fish. You see more of them down there, and you say, "Oh, I got a chance to win this tournament." That's the feeling that you're chasing. That is that anticipation of the next day, that the night before a tournament, knowing that you're on them. That is one of the best feelings in the world. That's almost better than winning. Obviously, winning is the greatest thing you can do. But that anticipation of knowing you're on them and knowing you're going to go out and catch them, that's a really good feeling. That
group of fish you get on, or that bite you get on, that kind of gives you butterflies. I think that is the one. That's what I live for, man. Just like whether it's finding a bite shallow and especially being consistent, or like seeing a school on side imaging. Like I remember on Chickamauga, I had a great event there. I think I got like 8th or something like that. But I graphed for 3 days straight. And finally, in the last like 2 hours of practice, just found a megawad on a ledge. Right. I remember getting fuzzy feelings, caught one. It was like a 6. And like, that's just the feelings you get. Like same with like the Eufaula tournament. Like I practiced for 4 days. It was a horrible event for a lot of people fishing wise. I found that spot with like 3 hours left, and it was the butterflies you get when you're like, okay, I'm not just around fish. Like I'm on the winning. We're gonna have a good tournament fish. Yeah, as long as we can put them in the boat, we're gonna have a great event. That's what we live for. I feel like.
Yeah.
For you, both of you now, when we look back at what we talked about at the beginning, which I didn't even know we would have this conversation, but being the only two anglers to crack 100 inches in the New York on smallmouth bass, like that record is yours. What does that do to you and your confidence moving forward? Let's start with you, Bailey. What does this do for you, knowing in the back of your mind, man, I'm the only, well, me and Nick are the only ones that are able to get 100 inches on a tournament on smallmouth bass. What does that do to you?
I don't know if it's really made me more confident. I think it's just because what I was doing at Champlain, I've done before. Maybe not obviously. I mean, I've had bigger bags of smallmouth fun fishing. Tournament wise, that's the biggest one obviously I've had. But I think if anything, it's just giving me more motivation to go fish. I mean, I've been kind of on the fence about fishing the full Bassmaster Trail next year, but I think after this one, it kind of just, especially being around the group of people, like Nick and Jake and Ryan, all the Northeast boys, it was cool to see the top four being new. I mean, it's Champlain, so I don't think people are too surprised that it's all Northeast boys, but I just think being around that camaraderie again, that was the only, it was the only Bassmaster event outside of the championship that I was fishing this year. Kind of just, I think it gave me the more motivation to, okay, I'm going to go give this a full run, because I've only fished like a half a schedule before, where I'm going to give it the old honest try, I think, next year. But as for confidence, man, I feel like I had confidence. I think it was just one of those things where it's okay, this is just another affirmation of I can do this. But I think if anything, it's more pride coming out of this event, because I look at who was behind me and I am thinking whatever horseshoe is in my house after that event, because them boys can freaking sling it. And so I just feel fortunate amongst a good group of competitors.
Before I make that same question to you, Nick, you touched on it. You're going to fish the full event. A couple of years ago, I think it was the last time we actually had Cody Milton fishing tournaments, which he won AOY, if I'm not mistaken. You and I had that conversation. You were on the podcast. And I'll tell you, man, all you need is one more good tournament. At that point, I think Cody had like top 3 finishes on all the events, all the top 3 events that would qualify him for AOY. But you were right there. Like you were, just nipping at his heels at Cody Milton, which at that time is like him and Russ Snyder, the top anglers. So what is your expectation going into next year? Like your realistic expectation, do you feel you can actually make a run at AOY? Do you confident that you can do that? Or what would be a successful season for you as far as results?
I don't know, man. I think it's kind of tricky. Do I feel confident I can make a run at AOY? Yes, but I'm not going to put that expectation on myself. Because I think I've spent so much time studying the mental game. And like a big guy for me, I look at is like Brandon Polinick, where I'm going to shoot for a win. And the worst case is you'll land in check range, where I'm going to shoot for AOY, but like, I'm not going to put that mental pressure on myself, because that's just how you kind of almost trick yourself into spinning out, if that makes sense. Where it's just one where I want to fish the full schedule just to see kind of what it's like, and more for fun than anything else, honestly. Because where I'm at in my stage of my life and business, honestly, the content side does more for me than the tournament side, where the tournament's just a plus. And I enjoy fishing the tournaments and making the content out of it. But I just want to see what I can do with a full schedule, man. I think I have confidence that I can do it. Do I think I can win? I'm not going to go out and say that. I think that's just a level of, I don't want to say cockiness, but I look at who I'd be going up against, like this guy right here, and that's a very, very, very hard feat to get when you got guys like that were in that top 10 at Champlain, and your guys like your Russ Snyders that are always going to be there. And so it's just, I don't know, to see, it's fun to see where you stack up. I mean, that's just the competitive mentality, that's all it is. But I'm excited though. The wife is on board, so it means I think we have
the wife's on board. That's all you need, man. That's all you need. That's 90% of the battle. That's Nick, what about you? What is knowing that you had like only one of 2 triple-digit smallmouth bass on a kayak bass fishing tournament? What does that do to your confidence level? Again, I look at the backdrop. It's full of trophies. Does this give you or even let me kind of give a twist to it. Does at any point does it give you room for like being, what's the word I'm looking for? God,
Complete.
like complacent, I guess that's the word. You know,
Yeah.
this reaching this milestone gives you like more complacency, like I've done it, been there, done it, or does it give you more hunger to kind of break more
No,
records, stuff like that?
makes me want to break that record. That's exactly what I want to do. I mean, there's no, I like Bailey. I mean, I've honestly lost count of the number of 100-inch days in practice I've had in smallmouth up in New York and Vermont and in that area in general. And honestly, it's only a matter of time till someone breaks that. I mean, I'm actually shocked that it is only 100.25 inches, to be honest, with the talent of anglers and the number of people now out there doing what needs to be done to catch those bass. I mean, I'm shocked that it's not higher. So I want to be the one to try to break it. Obviously, that's just the nature of competition. And it's something I enjoy. There's nothing I love more. Like, it is my favorite style of fishing. People are like, "Oh, I love top water." No, I like catching smallmouth out deep. I like seeing them stop the lure on the way down to the bottom. I like tracking those schools down. That's my absolute favorite way to fish. So, and I know there's mega bags out there. You get 105 a smallmouth if you really had a good day in New York, if not even a little more. So it makes me want to continue to fish these style of tournaments up north. I mean, it's my absolute favorite way to fish. And I just think the area is so scenic and so pristine. And when you see those big smallmouth jumping out of the crystal clear water, you can see them rocketing up from 20 feet down. There's nothing like it. It really is special.
Nick, do you have another tournament up there this year?
I don't think so. Which all that means is that I'm going to just be doing a lot of fun fishing up there.
Yeah. Well, I'll say if you got one next year, I'm going to call 1015. You'll have. You can clip this, Armando, to save it. All right.
There you go.
Nick's going to break it with like a 1015.
Bailey knows that I hold him. You know, he still
Oh, yeah.
owes me a bet for what was it? Quarterback Carson Wentz, I think it was. Remember that bet? That was like 5 years ago.
I don't, but you hold on to that one.
I
hold on to it for a long time.
I'll hold on to it. So no, definitely, Nick. You know, it's you guys again. You guys done some really cool stuff. Other than that, I mean, other than your own personal goal, like this level of achievements, when we're talking about the Bassmaster Kayak Series Open, does actually get more people involved or interested in going, you know, northeast to fish. Last year, after watching Bailey dominate the New York KBF, which I don't live in New York, I live in Texas, but I follow along because I'm a fan of the sport. You know, watching him over and over get AOYs and New York KBF and seeing his videos of Cayuga and all those lakes, it got me into going and actually doing a trip to go to fish with your fellow podcaster, Andrew. And again, I'm going this year. So that being said, you're going to see more and more people actually, not just for tournament, but actually maybe for vacation. Like, want to get out of the hot Texas or southern humidity and go up north and fish for smallmouth bass. Do you guys worry about, you know, because it's such a beautiful and pristine area that, you know, for years, decades, we thought about bass fishing as a southern sport, but we now in the last decade or so, maybe more, have kind of realized, wait a minute, you know, Northeast holds trophy bass, smallmouth bass, and they're just as fun or even more fun than catching largemouth bass. So do you guys ever think about that? It's like, man, there's going to be a whole lot of more people that we're going to have to share the water with in New York, because you're actually at a stage where you're actually pushing people to come and visit New York in the Northeast area.
For the kayak tournaments, bring it on. It just means better payout. I think Nick and I both want that. But I mean, pressure, it's been happening for the past couple of years now. I mean, Cayuga, for example, is a pretty hot lake, and it was for a while there. It was just a handful of us that would fish it, and not many people knew how good it actually was. And that was a nice time of year But now, I mean, dude, I go there before season even starts, and the ramp's full of Alabama plates, Texas plates. People are coming up and fishing it. They're fishing the St. Lawrence River out of season, and I mean, pressure's not going to kill our state. New York speaking, our New York Fish and Wildlife will kill our state before anybody else from out of state does, and that's I'll stop before I get on that soapbox. But I think more people the better, especially tournament speaking, man. I know we were going through a period there where it's like trails wouldn't come up north because we didn't have the representation. But I think Nick can agree here. I think that tide has changed.
Yeah, and honestly, pound for pound, like bag for bag, if you look at the weights in New York lakes, I mean, they'll go toe to toe with any lake in the country. I mean, Texas, down south, you'll have those like one mega giant fish, like 10-pounder double digit. They're catching them. I mean, they got a 12-pounder on Kayak last year, but but if you look at the average fish size, I mean, they're just bigger in New York than anywhere else in the country on fish for fish average, and there's a lot of them, and they're really fun. They are definitely getting harder to catch. There's no question that they're getting harder to catch. You will run into more boats on the water now on Cayuga in April than you've ever thought that you would potentially see up there. But there's still a lot of fish to catch, and there's still a lot of good fishing to be had. So
100%.
It does help the economy in those areas. Like I went to Buffalo, New York, and got to see a little bit of Buffalo. And I can't remember. It started with an H, small town where I stayed.
Hamburg.
Beautiful. Yes. So it's like you inject some money into economy as more people go in. So that aspect is good. It also is you as an angler that's like, now I have to share the water with all these people. It kind of sucks, I guess, but it's a small price to pay. And obviously, with like I mentioned, you guys are kind of like you, and also in the Bassmasters elites, you're pioneering for kayak anglers that can't afford a boat. You guys are kind of pioneering that migration of the snowbirds, so to speak, going like, oh yeah, I'm going the opposite of a snowbird, like this sweaty mosquito crowd. This wants to go up north instead of staying down south for the hot summer. So the opposite of that. So congratulations on both of you, man. I've had you for now. I know New York, you got a little later than I have here in Texas. So I don't want to keep you too long, but Bailey and Nick. Well, Nick, let me start with you. What are your plans for 2026 season?
So I'm definitely going to start my season at the Bassmaster Kayak Championship at the Classic in Tennessee. I will be there for that tournament. I'm super excited wherever that might be in Tennessee, and I'm excited to get another crack at Tennessee because I like I said, I don't have the best track record in that state, but I promise one day I will figure out a tournament on one of those lakes.
Armando, clip this when he wins.
Yeah,
no, but that's what we're talking about. You want to go spend more than $1,000 on a place that you sucked. Like that is exactly what we've been talking about. Most people would have said, screw it. I'm not going to pay Airbnb, gas, take personal days off from work and all that for a place that I suck. But yet you're like itching to go back. And the day that you do, which it's going to happen, it's all the more sweeter. And I think that's the level of commitment, and I don't want to say cliche, but like Kobe, like that Mamba mentality that I'm like, I'm gonna go through hell or high water, but I am gonna find success at this for not the payout. Because if you think about all the times you've gone to Tennessee, spent all this money, you're getting a fraction of it back. It's for you. It's not the trophy. It's not the catch. It's you in looking at yourself in the mirror and said, I was able to do some of, one of the hardest things that I needed to do and sacrifice a lot to do this. And you can't put you can't pin a trophy, a big, check or anything on it. It's just something that's in there in your heart. And I mean, I hope to see that come true. And if when it does, we're going to have the same conversation on the podcast.
I hope so. But yeah, so I plan on going to that, and then I'll fish just like I'll have to take a look at the Bassmaster schedule. I won't be able to fish the entire schedule, but I'll definitely fish, enough to hopefully qualify for the next year's championship after next year again. And then I do want to start dabbling in some of the NYKBF stuff. I thought about doing it this year, but that is something that I want to take on next year and actually, take the effort to drive up to New York and fish some of those tournaments, because we don't have a regional trail anymore. We used to have a pretty good regional trail that would go throughout the Northeast, elite kayak fishing. It's now defunct, and that was one of the trails that I enjoyed fishing. But I'm looking to get, I want to fish as much time up in New York as I can because it's my favorite area to fish. So I am going to look at that NYKBF schedule pretty hard next year.
Heck yeah.
Bailey's smiling, nodding his head, not just because he knows he's going to get a bigger paycheck.
No, it's because it's not going to happen when Nick comes. No, I like the competition. I like that part. I mean, the rest of the trail is going to be pissed off when they see Nick show up, but I love that. I love that head to head, that fun, friendly competition, which I feel like us in the Northeast we have. We have a good group of guys, and so it's fun when we watch each other show up because we know that it's going to take a lot, and it's a cool level of Nick wants to beat me as much as I want to beat him, but at the same time we're rooting for each other. And
for sure. I was pumped when I saw that you pulled it out. I mean, obviously, did I want to win? 100% I did. Yeah. But like at the end of the day, like it couldn't happen to a better guy that was able to pull that one off.
Appreciate
and based on your interactions on your posts, on both of your posts on social media, it's like you can tell that you guys were happy for each other. But it has to have that little, like, I want to beat this guy, but in a healthy way, right? No bad blood in it. Bailey, sure. You already talked about your goals for next year, so I'll let you, and then I'll go back to Nick to end the show. But with your social media, if you want to plug in, where can people follow you? What do you have going on in Serious Angler? What's coming up? You had a great episode with John B this week, which I really enjoyed listening to you and John B talk about the social media and bass fishing. I thought it was really good, really entertaining. I recommend everybody who haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It's a great episode. But, where can people follow you and find out more about Bailey Eichberg, Be the Fish, which I know is your YouTube channel, and the Serious Angler podcast?
Yeah. I mean, if there's a social media platform, I'm likely on there. So you can find me. That is one you won't find me on. That is the one you won't.
Just to clarify.
Who knows? 2026, we might need some money to pay the bills, so you might find us on there. But no, for real, any social media platform, holler anytime. DMs are always open to everybody. I always try to do my best to get back to every single comment, DM, everything. And it was pretty humbling to see how much outpour of support and how many eyes truly were on that event and on just the Bassmaster Kayak Series in general. So thank you to everybody that did reach out. That was awesome. Yeah, man, just thanks for the invite on the pod. I think the more we can keep covering kayak fishing, the more we're all going to benefit from it. And, keep growing this supportive community of competitors. And remember, at the end of the day, like, tournament fishing is fun, but you don't need it. It's kayak fishing is fun in its entirety. And like Nick and I may have won how we won, but you don't need it. Just go have fun. At the end of the day, fishing's fun. We're only here because of the fish. So that's the message I'll leave with.
Good point. And Nick, what about you? Where people follow you on social media, or any sponsors you want to thank that has helped you kind of achieve what you wanted in fishing?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And if I'm sponsored by Black Hall Outfitters in Connecticut, they rig my kayak for me. They get all my stuff dialed in, and it's a really cool shop to go to if you want to get your boat dialed in. That is one thing I will say. Equipment is huge when you're doing that offshore deal, and having everything exactly the way you want it to handle the big water, to be able to have your electronics dialed in. I get all that done at Black Hall Outfitters in Connecticut. They have a great shop. They do a great job rigging my kayak, and I've talked to other people on the trail that do have their kayak rigs there as well. But that's really it for me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. If you're interested in a Scope and Hope hat, you can hit me up on Instagram.
That's yours, Brad?
Yeah, me and Jake Angulas sell these hats. So it's our little brand we have going, but it's just it's the motto. You go out and you scope and hope.
That's awesome. Well, you touched on and I'll ask you that one last question. I promise you guys I won't ask anything after that. But you mentioned your rig. So for that style of fishing, you don't have to break down the whole rig. But what's your kayak preference for that type of fishing, like big water, middle of the lake?
I have a Hobie Pro Angler 14 180. I have bow mount XI3 trolling motor on the front, 2 Garmin the SV 126 graphs for my, and then the LVS 34 for my live scope. And I fish the Susquehanna a lot too. And the nice part about that kayak is I do have it rigged out. If I want to put a rear motor on the back, I can. So I'll fish like the shallow water rivers with that rear motor. But when I'm on the big water, I'm just using a bow mount on the front. And I run 200 amp hour lithium batteries in it. So and they're synced together. So if I need to switch from one to the other to make those big runs, I could do that all day.
What about you, Bailey? What's your kayak of choice for that type of fishing?
Yeah, I also got a PA. I just think that's the best, especially big water kayak. I'm running a rear mounted motor. I run an Humminbird Apex 13, which you definitely don't need a 13-inch screen for it. And I have a lot of people telling me it's egregious, and I will agree it's egregious. But it's the only Humminbird unit that they have in the smallest screen size that can screen record. And I wanted the screen recording from a content standpoint to make the people that watch the YouTube videos more enjoyable. That way you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then I have an Explore 10 that does all my side imaging, 2D mapping, everything like that, and then all that's run on a amped outdoors lithium battery. So I got a 24 volt for the motor, and then a 12 volt 80 amp that runs both those units and Mega Live 2 on a sniper pole. It'll run that all day long.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I'll let you go for now. And again, it's kind of late for you guys, especially up in the Northeast. But again, thank you for taking the time. Congratulations. I found out something new. You guys are the 2 only on kayak bass fishing tournaments in New York to hit triple digits. Congratulations. I mean, that is pretty awesome. I'm sure somebody will break that record at some point, but for now, that's yours. And, again, congratulations, and looking forward to the content that Bailey you're making, your success on the tournament, looking forward to your 2026 season. Nick, same thing, looking forward to you getting a big check, maybe first place in Tennessee. I'm going to mark that on my calendar as something that I really looking forward to do, like really watch it and pray to God that you get it, and hopefully get you on the podcast again. Because again, the part that I enjoy most about it, it's for you, it's in your heart. It's not about the checks. It's the sacrifice that you've done to finally break through. And I think that's, in essence, that's all of it. You take the glitter out of it. It's the sweat and sacrifice, and being able to accomplish something that's so hard to do is what I think is what drives us to keep doing this sport, which is hard enough as it is. So congratulations again, gentlemen. I'll let you go. Have a great night. For those that are watching, thank you for watching. We're your PFTs. If you want to be on the water, follow us on social media, Bass Kayak and Beers, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Have a great night, everyone. Peace out, and thank you for everyone that watched and commented. Appreciate it.